My name is Natalie Greer, and I'm 33 years old. I live in a two-bedroom apartment in downtown Seattle with my boyfriend, Owen Parker, managing social media for a boutique marketing firm while he works in logistics. I've always been the organized one, tracking our shared expenses in color-coded spreadsheets, while Owen just goes with the flow. My best friend Paige Miller says I micromanage, but she doesn't understand the work it takes to keep everything running smoothly. I thought Owen appreciated my attention to detail, the way I plan our date nights, remember his family's birthdays, keep our social calendar full. My shoulders tensed when he overheard that stupid joke at dinner. It was just wine talk, the kind of thing everyone thinks but never says out loud. But let me start from the beginning. I'd invited the girls over for wine and appetizers before we headed out to that new tapas place downtown. Owen wasn't supposed to be home for another hour. He usually works late on Thursdays, so I'd spread everything out on our granite countertop. 3 kinds of cheese, those fancy crackers he always says are overpriced, and a bottle of Malbec I'd been saving for a special occasion. Paige brought these hilarious napkins she'd found at some novelty shop. Lowered standards, printed in gold script across cream-colored paper. We were howling about them, arranging them just so under the cheese board. You know how everything gets funnier after that second glass of wine? These are perfect for girls' night, I said, smoothing one across my lap. Though technically, Owen's the one who settled. I graduated summa cum laude while he barely made it through state school. That got us started on the whole pros and cons thing. You know how it goes. Jackie comparing her husband's cooking skills to his inability to fold laundry, Paige listing her new boyfriend's CrossFit obsession as both a pro and a con. The wine was flowing, the brie was perfectly room temperature, and everything felt loose and easy. Owen's great with schedules, I offered, swirling my glass. Shows up exactly when he says he will. Almost boring, really, but reliable. The girls nodded encouragingly. Though sometimes I wish he'd surprise me, you know? Show some spontaneity? But he's so sweet, Jackie protested. Remember when he organized that birthday brunch for you? I rolled my eyes. Please, I had to drop like 50 hints. And then help him with the guest list. The memory of that morning, Owen's proud smile as I walked into the restaurant, flickered briefly, but I pushed it aside. Sometimes I think about that guy I dated in college, Marcus. Now he knew how to plan a surprise. Owen's stable, though, Paige pointed out. Steady job, good family. God, his family. I groaned. Every Sunday dinner, like we're in some 1950s sitcom. And his mom's constant hints about grandchildren? I took another sip. Honestly, I settled. The words hung there, sharp and glittering like broken glass. Jackie's fork clattered against her plate. Paige's eyes went wide, fixed on something behind me. That's when I heard it. The soft metallic clink of keys hitting the ceramic bowl by our front door. The one I'd picked out at that artisan market, insisting it matched our decor better than the hook Owen preferred. My stomach dropped. I turned slowly, already knowing what I'd see. Owen stood in the entryway, a white bakery box gripped in his hands. His face was completely blank, but his knuckles were white against the cardboard. Without a word, he set the box on the counter. I caught a glimpse of the logo, my favorite patisserie downtown. He'd stopped on his way home, probably wanting to surprise me. The door clicked shut behind him with devastating softness. "Oh my God," Paige whispered. My phone buzzed. The text was brief. "I need space. Don't contact my family." "He's being dramatic," I said, but my voice sounded thin. "He'll cool off." Another buzz. "Lease renews Friday 5 p.m. I'll decide before then." The next morning, I woke up to a screen full of my own unanswered texts. Each one showed those mocking delivery confirmations, but no response. "You're overreacting." It was just girl talk. "Come on, you know I didn't mean it that way." My throat felt like I'd swallowed sand. I pulled up his contact photo, the one from our trip to Maine last summer, his hair windblown on that little sailboat he'd insisted on renting. The memory of him explaining nautical terms I'd never use again almost made me smile. Almost. My finger hovered over the call button. He'd said he needed space, but that's what everyone says when they really mean, convince me. Right? The phone rang 3 times before he picked up. My heart did this weird flutter thing, like it couldn't decide between relief and panic. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "So about last night, you know how wine and friends can make everything sound more dramatic than it is?" I forced a little laugh. We were all exaggerating for effect. You should have heard what Jackie said about Mark's. Stop. His voice was quiet but firm. Like that time I'd borrowed his credit card for those designer boots and tried to play it off as a miscommunication. I'm not interested in comparisons or excuses. Owen, come on. I sat up straighter, switching tactics. You know how much I do for us. The planning, the organizing. I mean, who made sure we got that apartment when the market was impossible? Who keeps track of your mom's birthday and your dentist appointments? Sometimes I need to vent about carrying all that. Vent? The word came out flat. You told your friends you settled for me. Made jokes about my education, my family. Used napkins that... He took a breath. You humiliated me, Natalie. In our home. I can explain everything in person. Maybe over dinner? That new Italian place you mentioned? No. The firmness in his voice made my stomach clench. I want a letter, an honest one. No manipulation, no spin, no listing everything you do for me like it's a defense. By Friday at 5, I'll decide whether to renew the lease or not. And don't show up at my office or my parents' house. I mean it, Natalie. I heard what he was saying, but more importantly, I heard what he wasn't saying. He wanted a letter. That meant he wanted to be convinced. He set a deadline. That meant he was giving me a chance to prove myself. Okay, I said softly. I'll write you the most amazing letter. You'll see how much I... The call ended. Not even a goodbye. But that was fine. This was fine. He'd given me a task, a way to fix things. The letter would show him how well I knew him, how perfect we were together. And Friday at 5? That wasn't an ending. It was an opportunity. I whispered it to myself, letting the words settle like a promise. Friday at 5. It's not an ending. It's a chance. I needed backup, someone to validate that Owen was being ridiculous about this whole thing. Paige had always been my voice of reason since college. Remember that time she talked me through the accidental double booking of spring break trips? She'd get it. The coffee shop was packed, but I spotted her curly auburn hair and those signature oversized glasses right away. The familiar scent of chocolate croissants and espresso wrapped around me like a comfort blanket, reminding me of all our post-breakup analysis sessions over the years. You look tired, she said, pushing a latte toward me. Thanks for meeting me. I slumped into the chair. Owen's being completely unreasonable. He wants this whole formal letter by Friday, like we're in some kind of corporate negotiation. Paige took a slow sip of her tea, studying me over the rim. Tell me exactly what happened. I walked her through it. The wine, the friends, those stupid napkins that were clearly meant as a joke. And now he's acting like I committed some terrible crime. Everyone vents about their partners sometimes, right? In private, maybe. Paige set down her cup. But Nat, you didn't vent. You declared you settled for him, in your shared home, with an audience. My shoulders tensed. Whose side are you on? Yours. Always. That's why I'm going to be honest. She leaned forward, her voice gentle but firm. You need to own this. Fully. Stop spinning it into jokes or explanations or lists of what you do for him. Just own that you hurt him. Own it? The word tasted bitter. There's nothing to own. He's being sensitive. Nat. No, wait. Something clicked. I get it now. You've never really liked Owen, have you? Always with those little comments about how we rushed into living together. Paige blinked. What? And you're always going on about how perfect our apartment is, how you'd kill for that location. The words tumbled out faster. Is that what this is? You want us to break up so you can swoop in on the lease? Are you serious right now? Paige's voice cracked. I'm trying to help you save your relationship. By taking his side? Some friend you are. I grabbed my bag, chair scraping against the floor. I thought I could trust you, but clearly you've got your own agenda. Natalie, stop. You're doing exactly what you always do, turning everyone else into the villain when you mess up. My phone was already in my hand, thumb hovering over Paige's contact. I don't need this. I don't need you undermining me when I'm trying to fix things. Please, just listen. Block contact. Done. Back home, I opened my laptop. The cursor blinked accusingly on the blank document. I typed, Dear Owen, then deleted it. Too formal. Owen, then deleted that too. After an hour, I had bullet points. I organize everything. I'm the one who got us this apartment. Your career advanced because I pushed you. Remember when I helped your sister move? You never planned date nights. I deserve some frustration sometimes. My phone buzzed. Paige's final message notification lit up the screen. I deleted it without reading. She didn't understand. None of them did. I was almost ready with this letter. I'd show Owen exactly how much I contributed, how much he needed me. The cursor kept blinking, waiting for me to prove them all wrong. The bullet points weren't enough. I needed something more personal, something that would show Owen how deeply I understood him. That's when I remembered his journal, the little black notebook he kept in his nightstand drawer. I'd found it months ago while organizing his side of the bed, because honestly, who else was going to do it? Look, I know what you're thinking. Private journals are supposed to be private, but relationships are about knowing each other completely, right? And I'd only peek occasionally, just to understand him better. That's what good partners do. They pay attention. The drawer slid open with that familiar soft scrape. There it was, wedged between old receipts and a novel he'd never finished. My fingers tingled as I lifted it out. The leather cover felt warm, like it remembered my touch. This isn't snooping, I whispered to myself. This is research. I settled cross-legged on our bed, well, my bed now, temporarily, and flipped through the pages. Owen's neat handwriting filled each one, all those thoughts he never shared out loud. I'd forgotten how much material there was. Perfect. Remember last Christmas, when he wrote about feeling stuck at work? I found that entry. Sometimes I wonder if I'm moving forward because I want to, or because I'm being pushed. See? He needed my motivation. Without me, he'd still be in that entry-level position. Or this gem from February. Mom keeps asking when we'll get married. I'm not sure I'm ready. I could use that. Show him how patient I've been, waiting for him to catch up emotionally. My favorite was from just 2 months ago. Natalie's so confident about everything. Sometimes I wish I had her certainty. That one was going right into the letter's opening paragraph. It proved how much he admired me, even if he couldn't say it out loud. Back at my laptop, I started weaving his words between my bullet points. The letter took shape. Owen, you once wrote that you admired my certainty. Remember? That's why I push you, because I see your potential. When you questioned if you were moving forward for yourself or because of pressure, that was growth talking. I heard your uncertainty about marriage and I gave you space. Every doubt you've shared in your private moments, I've been there, supporting quietly. My heart raced as I read it back. This was perfect. Strategic empathy. That's what this was. I was showing him that I knew his inner world better than anyone. How could he walk away from someone who understood him so completely? I printed 3 drafts, comparing fonts. The third one looked right, professional but intimate. Holding the warm paper, I could almost hear him reading it, realizing how much thought I'd put into us. Rising from my desk, I padded back to the bedroom. The nightstand drawer opened one last time. He'll see how well I know him, I whispered, sliding his journal back into place, exactly as I'd found it. I couldn't just sit around waiting until Friday. By Wednesday morning, my stomach was in knots, and Owen still hadn't responded to any of my texts. The apartment felt too quiet. Usually by now, he'd be shuffling around the kitchen, making that awful instant coffee he loves. I kept catching myself listening for his footsteps. You know that feeling when you're absolutely certain someone's playing hard to get? That's what this was. Had to be. Owen had always been the passive-aggressive type, honestly. Remember last March when he got upset because I reorganized his desk at work as a surprise? He didn't speak to me for 2 days, but he got over it, just like he'd get over this. I called his office around 10, putting on my brightest voice. Hi, this is Natalie Greer. I'm just checking on Owen. He wasn't feeling well this morning. The receptionist's pause lasted a beat too long. Mr. Parker isn't available, she said flatly. Would you like his voicemail? No, I swallowed hard. Just tell him I called? Another pause. I'll make a note. That's when it hit me. I needed something bigger than a letter. Something he couldn't ignore or avoid. The idea bloomed like a sunrise. A surprise reconciliation dinner. Friday at 4:30, just before his deadline. He'd walk in to find everything perfect, his family there, candles lit, my letter at his place setting. How could he possibly walk away from that? I spent the next hour texting invitations to his parents and sister. The plan crystallized with each message: fine linens, his favorite roast, that expensive wine he saves for special occasions. I'd prove I knew exactly what he wanted, what he needed. This wasn't just dinner. This was a statement. The grocery store was packed, but I barely noticed the crowds. My cart filled up. Fresh herbs, baby potatoes, that fancy French mustard he likes. Each item felt like another piece of armor, another reason for him to stay. The butcher raised his eyebrows when I insisted on the premium cut. Special occasion? He asked, wrapping the roast. You could say that. My laugh sounded strange, even to me. I'm fixing something. A woman with a toddler edged away from the counter. What did she know? This was about fighting for what mattered. Owen just needed to see how much effort I was putting in. Once he saw the dinner, the decorations, his family all there supporting us, he'd understand. The deadline would become meaningless. Standing in the spice aisle, clutching the wrapped roast to my chest, I felt almost giddy. This will fix everything, I whispered, scanning labels for the perfect seasoning blend. A teenage stockboy glanced at me, then quickly looked away. Let them stare. None of them understood what it took to keep a relationship alive. Sometimes you had to go big, had to show someone exactly what they'd be losing. Friday at 4:30, Owen would walk through that door and find himself surrounded by all the evidence of my devotion. He wouldn't be able to resist it. He wouldn't want to. My fingers tightened around the roast. A passing customer gave me a worried look, but I barely noticed. I was too busy planning my victory. Friday afternoon stretched like warm taffy. I'd been up since dawn, polishing silverware until I could see my reflection, pressing the good tablecloth twice to get the creases perfect. The lowered standards napkins from that night were buried deep in the trash, replaced with crisp white linen ones that probably cost more than Owen's whole wardrobe. But that's what making things right looks like, isn't it? By 4:15, everything was ready. The table gleamed like something out of a magazine spread. Crystal glasses catching late afternoon sun, candles waiting to be lit, and at each place setting, a thick cream envelope containing my letter. I'd written 6 versions before settling on the perfect blend of explanation and accountability. The quotes from his journal would show him how deeply I understood his inner world. Who else had taken the time to really know him like that? The roast filled the apartment with a rich, savory smell that reminded me of Sunday dinners at his parents' house. They hadn't responded to my invitation texts, but that was typical of their family. Always running late, never confirming plans. They'd show up with Owen. They had to. At 4:25, I changed my outfit for the 3rd time, settling on that blue dress Owen once said brought out my eyes. My hands shook slightly as I applied lipstick. The mirror showed someone confident, put together, exactly the image I needed to project. I practiced my opening lines. I know we all say things we don't mean. No. Sometimes it takes almost losing something better. The doorbell rang at 3:45. My heart leaped. They were early. I smoothed my dress, checked my reflection one last time, and hurried to the door with what I hoped was a welcoming, humble smile. But it wasn't Owen. A courier stood there, looking bored, holding out an envelope. Delivery for Natalie Greer? The envelope felt too light, too formal. My fingers trembled as I signed for it. Inside was a single page of Owen's neat handwriting. I've removed my name from the lease renewal. A locksmith will arrive at 5 p.m. to help me retrieve my belongings. Please remain in your bedroom during this process. There will be no discussion. Sweat beaded on my forehead as I read it again. And again. The words didn't change, but they had to be wrong. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. The table was set. The roast was perfect. His family would be here any minute. I paced between the dining room and kitchen, the letter crumpling in my fist. The candles stood unlit, accusing. Owen was bluffing. He had to be. This was just another passive-aggressive move, like when he'd gotten all weird about me cleaning his desk. He wanted me to panic, to chase him. Well, I wouldn't give him the satisfaction. 4:45. The roast needed to rest anyway. I straightened the envelopes at each place setting for the 10th time. His family was probably stuck in traffic. Owen would walk through that door, see everything I'd prepared, and realize how much he was overreacting. 4:50. The sun slanted through the windows, making the empty glasses sparkle. My phone stayed silent. He wouldn't dare, I muttered, gripping his letter so tight my knuckles went white. The clock on the wall ticked toward 5, each sound like a hammer against my temples. The doorbell chimed at exactly 5. My throat went dry as I heard two sets of footsteps in the hallway, one heavy, one lighter. Keys jingled, and I darted into the bedroom, leaving the door cracked just enough to hear. Most of the boxes are already packed. Owen's voice was flat, professional. We'll start with the closet. The locksmith grunted in acknowledgement. Metal scraped against metal as hangers slid across the rod in the hall closet. Each screech felt like fingernails down my spine. I pressed my hands against my ears, but couldn't block out the methodical sounds of Owen dismantling our life together. Remember last Christmas, when he'd helped me organize that closet? We'd spent the whole afternoon sorting winter coats and boots, laughing about the ridiculous hat collection I'd accumulated. Now those same items thudded into cardboard boxes with cold efficiency. These go to the truck, Owen directed. Footsteps moved away, then returned. A drawer slammed in the guest room, probably collecting the extra clothes he kept there. I clutched the cream envelope containing my letter, the edges soft from my nervous handling. All those carefully chosen words, the journal quotes that proved how well I knew him, and he wouldn't even look at them. Tears streaked down my face, smearing my perfectly applied makeup. The dining room candles would be melting by now, the roast growing cold. What a waste. All that effort, and he couldn't even appreciate the gesture. The sounds moved closer to my bedroom. I retreated to the attached bathroom, watching through the crack as Owen efficiently cleared his nightstand. He paused for just a moment at the drawer where he kept his journal, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. Did he know I'd read it? The thought made my stomach clench. Just the master bath left, he told the locksmith. I held my breath as Owen entered, focusing on the cabinet under the sink. He didn't acknowledge me, though I stood less than 3 feet away. The silence felt like a physical weight, pressing against my chest until I could barely breathe. I couldn't take it anymore. Clutching my letter like a shield, I stepped into the hallway. Owen? My voice came out as a whisper. He continued moving between the bathroom and a waiting box, his movements precise and controlled. The locksmith watched from the doorway, tools jangling on his belt, a silent witness to my humiliation. Finally, Owen straightened. He did a last visual sweep of the apartment, then reached into his pocket. The sound of his key hitting the kitchen counter echoed through the empty spaces where his things had been. Owen, please. The words died in my throat as he walked past without making eye contact. I stood frozen in the bedroom doorway, watching as the locksmith knelt at the front door. The metallic scraping of the lock being changed felt final, permanent, like the last shovel of dirt on a grave. Click, click, click. Each turn of the screwdriver was another barrier between me and the life I'd taken for granted. The cream envelope crumpled in my fist, its contents now as meaningless as yesterday's weather forecast. First thing Saturday morning, I marched into Martin Delgado's office, my solo lease application clutched in one hand, a coffee carrier with 2 lattes in the other. The property manager's door was already open, but I knocked anyway, flashing my brightest smile. Natalie. Martin looked up from his computer, his expression carefully neutral. I expected you. I brought coffee. I set 1 cup on his desk, sliding into the chair across from him. I know it's early for a Saturday, but I wanted to catch you before... Let's cut to the chase. He didn't touch the coffee. Owen Parker called yesterday to formally remove himself from the lease renewal. My smile wavered. Right, about that. I have my updated application right here. I placed the folder on his desk, trying to keep my hands steady. I've been a perfect tenant for 3 years. You know me. The radiator hissed in the corner, reminding me of winter mornings when Owen would adjust our unit's temperature before I woke up. I pushed the memory away. Martin opened the folder, scanning the numbers with practiced efficiency. Each flip of paper felt like a drumbeat in my chest. Finally, he looked up, shaking his head. Your income alone doesn't meet our requirements, he said. And your credit score. He trailed off diplomatically. I can get a cosigner, I blurted. My brother. He's in finance. Give me an hour. Martin checked his watch. You have until Monday at noon. After that, we'll list the unit. I nearly sprinted to my car, fumbling with my phone. Aaron picked up on the 3rd ring. What's wrong? He sounded wary. I need you to co-sign my lease. I rushed out. Owen left, and the landlord won't... Stop. Aaron's voice hardened. What do you mean, Owen left? My throat tightened. It was just a misunderstanding. He overreacted to... Did you finally push him too far? Aaron cut in. Like you did with Mark and Jason before him? That's not fair. Heat rushed to my face. You're my brother. You're supposed to support me. I've supported you through 3 relationships, 2 career changes, and countless temporary loans, he said. I warned you last time. I'm done enabling this pattern. Pattern? I gripped the steering wheel. What pattern? I'm the responsible one. I'm the planner. Everyone else just... Goodbye, Natalie. The call ended. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over redial, but I knew it wouldn't matter. Aaron never changed his mind once it was made up. Back in my apartment, the silence felt different. Heavier. Owen's missing shoes by the door, the bare spots on walls where his photos had hung. Everything screamed absence. I wandered into the dining room where last night's dinner setup still waited, like some sad museum exhibit. My hands moved automatically, straightening the tablecloth, relighting the candles. The lowered standards napkins were still there, mocking me. I should throw them away. Instead, I smoothed them carefully, positioning them just so. He'll come back, I whispered to the empty chairs. They all do. I set 2 places at the table, muscle memory guiding each movement. The good plates, the wine glasses, everything perfect. Just like always. Just like it should be. Night crept in through the windows while I sat perfectly still, watching shadows dance across the dining room. The candles had burned low, their flames reflecting in the polished silver I'd set out hours ago. Everything was exactly where it should be. The plates aligned just so, wine glasses gleaming, that beautiful roast centered on the table. All of it getting colder by the minute. I smoothed my dress for the 100th time, the fabric catching slightly on my rings. Remember how Owen used to tease me about my obsession with perfect table settings? It's just dinner, he'd say, but his eyes would crinkle at the corners, amused by my little rituals. That memory sent a shiver down my spine, but I pushed it away. He'd be here. He had to be. The wall clock ticked past 9, each movement echoing in the hollow apartment. A car door slammed somewhere outside, and my heart leaped, but the footsteps passed by, fading into the night. Just like the last 6 times. He's probably stuck at work, I said aloud, my voice strange in the silence. Or maybe traffic. The words trailed off as I noticed a drop of wax sliding down the nearest candle, landing with a soft pat on my carefully pressed tablecloth. The roast sat untouched, a perfect centerpiece growing cold and dry. I'd followed his mother's recipe exactly, the one she'd shared at that family dinner last Christmas. Surely that meant something. People don't just throw away traditions like that. My phone lay dark and silent beside my plate. No missed calls, no messages. I'd checked it 17 times in the last hour alone. The screen reflected my face, makeup still flawless, despite... How long had I been sitting here? The candles had melted into shapeless lumps. A bitter laugh escaped me as I spotted Owen's key, still lying where he'd dropped it on that stupid novelty napkin. Lowered standards, it proclaimed in cheerful script, like some cosmic joke that wasn't funny anymore. I reached for it, fingers hovering over the metal, but couldn't bring myself to touch it. You're all being dramatic, I announced to the empty chairs. Everyone says things they don't mean sometimes. Everyone wonders about their choices. The words felt right, comfortable like a worn sweater. I'm just honest enough to say it out loud. Wax dripped steadily now, creating tiny translucent pools on the white linen. I should clean it up, save the tablecloth. Instead, I watched each drop fall, remembering other dinners, other nights when everything made sense. When had people become so sensitive? So quick to twist a harmless comment into something ugly? If he loved me, I whispered, gripping my unused napkin, he'd laugh like we all do. The candle flames flickered, casting strange shadows across the abandoned place settings, and somewhere in the distance, a door closed with quiet finality.